The book of Revelation, written by the Apostle John, presents visions about the end times. It was written during John's exile on the island of Patmos and reveals what is to come. Events leading up to the final judgment and the victory of good over evil. It is a book filled with symbolism, prophecies, and powerful messages that point to the future of humanity and the ongoing struggle between light and darkness. In this video, we are going to explore the main mysteries of Revelation. Our goal is to understand the meaning of each vision and what it represents for us today. It's a call to reflect on our actions and a promise of hope. For despite all the trials and judgments, the victory of good is assured. If you believe in divine justice and the promise of redemption, like this video and subscribe to the channel to help spread this message. Share it with those who need to hear these words, and leave a comment. We want to know your thoughts on the revelations of the Apocalypse. We will start with the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse, powerful symbols representing judgments and challenges throughout history. Each of them carries a message about the dangers we face and how the consequences of our actions can shape our future. Revelation describes 4 horsemen that appear with the opening of the first seals. The first horseman, riding a white horse, carries a bow and is given a crown. He symbolizes conquest and domination, but can also be seen as a false peace that precedes times of conflict. The second horseman, on a red horse, represents war. He wields a sword and has the power to take peace from the earth, leading nations to confrontation and bloodshed. It is a warning about the price of ambition and violence. The third horseman rides a black horse and carries a scale. He symbolizes famine and inequality. The text speaks of high prices for basic foods, indicating times of scarcity, where a few have much and many have little. It is a vision of social imbalance and injustice that repeats throughout the ages. Finally, the fourth horseman, riding a pale horse, is Death, followed by Hades. He brings pestilence, famine, and destruction, affecting 1/4 of the earth. He summarizes the consequences of the previous horsemen, showing that war and inequality inevitably lead to death. These 4 horsemen are warnings. They represent the consequences of misguided human choices: war, hunger, inequality, and death. They are symbols that make us reflect on the dangers of following paths of destruction, and a call to seek alternatives before it is too late. If this message made you reflect, leave a like and comment below which horseman you think is most relevant to our current times. Your interaction helps bring this content to more people. The Great Tribulation is one of the most intense and harrowing moments described in the book of Revelation. It is a period of unprecedented suffering, where trials, persecution, and challenges will test the faith of every individual. This time of turmoil is depicted as a necessary passage before redemption, and is closely tied to the opening of seals, the sounding of trumpets, and the pouring of divine wrath upon the earth. Revelation 7:14 mentions that those who come out of the Great Tribulation are dressed in white robes, symbolizing the faithful who remained steadfast in their belief. This moment is not only about punishment, but also about the promise of redemption for those who endure. It's a reminder that, even in the darkest moments, there is hope for those who persevere. For many, the idea of remaining faithful during persecution might seem like a distant story, but it resonates deeply with the struggles faced by many Christians today in different parts of the world. The Great Tribulation serves as a call to resilience, showing that keeping faith in the face of adversity is a path that leads to ultimate victory. It challenges us to stay committed and loyal, even when everything seems against us. In Revelation 16, we see the 7 bowls of God's wrath being poured out upon the earth. Each bowl represents a form of divine judgment, a consequence for humanity's persistent disobedience. These catastrophic events are described as plagues, each one more severe than the last, symbolizing the full force of divine justice against sin. The first bowl brings painful sores upon those who accepted the mark of the beast. The second and third bowls turn the seas and rivers into blood, signifying the complete destruction of life-sustaining water. The fourth bowl causes the sun to scorch people with intense heat, showing the unbearable consequences of defying divine authority. These judgments reflect the severity of rejecting God's path and the inevitable consequences that follow. The fifth bowl brings darkness upon the kingdom of the beast, a symbolic gesture of the fall of corrupt powers. The sixth bowl dries up the Euphrates River, paving the way for the final battle between good and evil. Finally, the seventh bowl brings about the ultimate devastation: earthquakes, thunder, lightning, and the fall of cities. It marks the climax of God's judgment, leading directly to the final confrontation. These bowls serve as a stark warning. They show that there are real consequences for rejecting righteousness and continuing on a path of rebellion. The message is clear. Humanity must choose between repentance and suffering, between turning toward hope or facing the full extent of divine judgment. The mark of the beast is one of the most discussed and enigmatic symbols in the book of Revelation. Found in Revelation 13, it represents loyalty to the Antichrist and rebellion against God. Those who accept the mark do so willingly, choosing to align themselves with the forces of evil for the sake of convenience and survival. It's a mark that allows people to buy and sell, signifying a complete submission to the corrupt system that stands against divine principles. The number associated with the mark, 666, has sparked countless interpretations over time. It is often seen as a symbol of imperfection, a stark contrast to the divine number 7, which represents completeness. The number 666 signifies humanity's attempt to elevate itself without God, a form of rebellion rooted in pride and self-sufficiency. The mark is a representation of ultimate allegiance, either to God or to the powers of darkness. The concept of the mark of the beast raises questions about loyalty and integrity. It challenges us to think about the compromises we might make for comfort, convenience, or acceptance. It's not just about a physical mark, it's about the choices we make and what those choices reveal about who we serve. In the end, the mark is a symbol of the eternal divide, those who choose God and those who do not. The Battle of Armageddon is the ultimate confrontation between good and evil, described in Revelation 16:16. This battle represents the climax of all the forces of darkness gathering to fight against the forces of God. Armageddon is not just a physical battle, but also a spiritual one, where the fate of humanity hangs in the balance. It symbolizes the culmination of rebellion and resistance against divine authority. The forces of evil, led by the Antichrist, unite at a place called Armageddon, determined to stand against God's righteous judgment. But this battle is unlike any other. It is a confrontation where the outcome is already determined. Christ returns, not as a lamb, but as a conquering king, leading the armies of heaven to victory. The enemies of God are defeated, and the forces of darkness are crushed once and for all. Armageddon reminds us that no matter how powerful the forces of evil may seem, they are ultimately destined for defeat. The battle serves as a powerful reminder of the triumph of good over evil, of Christ's victory over all that stands against God's kingdom. It is the assurance that justice will prevail, and that the darkness will not have the last word. In Revelation 17 and 18, Babylon is depicted as a symbol of corruption, idolatry, and materialism. It represents all that is morally bankrupt in the world, the systems of greed, excess, and oppression that lead people away from God. Babylon is often described as the great prostitute, enticing nations and leaders with promises of wealth and power, only to lead them to their eventual downfall. The fall of Babylon is inevitable. God's judgment comes upon it suddenly, bringing destruction to a city that once seemed invincible. The merchants and kings of the earth mourn Babylon's fall, not out of love, but because of the loss of their wealth and luxuries. It is a stark reminder that all material power and riches are temporary, and that those who build their lives on such foundations will face destruction. The message of Babylon's fall is a powerful one. It challenges us to evaluate our own attachments. Are we building our lives on values that endure, or are we seduced by the fleeting promises of wealth and power? The fall of Babylon is a call to leave behind corruption and pursue righteousness, knowing that only God's kingdom stands forever. Revelation 17 and 18 describe the fall of Babylon, a symbol of corruption, idolatry, and excess. Babylon is portrayed as a powerful force of temptation, leading nations into moral decay and away from God. She represents the ultimate manifestation of human pride, wealth, and oppression. God's judgment on Babylon is swift and final. In 1 hour, her power, luxury, and influence are destroyed. The kings and merchants mourn her fall, but their grief is for their lost wealth, not for Babylon herself. This fall is a reminder that all worldly power and riches are temporary, and those who depend on them are destined for disappointment. Babylon's fall challenges us to examine our own attachments, to choose righteousness over material wealth, and to distance ourselves from systems of corruption. It is a powerful message that ultimately only God's kingdom will endure. In Revelation 20, the final judgment is portrayed as all of humanity standing before God's great white throne. Books are opened, including the Book of Life, and each person is judged according to their deeds. This scene represents complete accountability. Every action is reviewed, and the fate of every soul is decided. Those whose names are not in the Book of Life face the second death, eternal separation from God. For the faithful, however, this moment brings the fulfillment of hope, with entry into eternal life in God's presence. The final judgment reassures believers that God's justice will prevail. It is both a warning to the wicked and a promise to the righteous, urging us to live with integrity and align our lives with God's will. Revelation 21 describes the creation of a new heaven and a new earth. The old broken world is replaced by a new reality where God dwells among His people. In this perfect creation, God wipes away every tear. There is no more death, mourning, or pain. The New Jerusalem descends from heaven, shining with the glory of God, a city of beauty and purity. There is no need for a temple, as God Himself is present throughout, and His glory illuminates everything. The new heaven and new earth represent the fulfillment of God's promise, a restored existence without suffering, filled with His peace and presence. It is a vision of hope, assuring believers of an eternal future where righteousness, harmony, and God's love prevail. Revelation 19 presents a vivid picture of Christ's ultimate victory over evil. This chapter marks the triumphant return of Jesus, no longer as the sacrificial lamb, but as the conquering king. He appears riding a white horse, symbolizing purity and righteousness, with a robe dipped in blood and a name written on him, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He leads the armies of heaven to confront and defeat the forces of darkness, led by the beast and the false prophet. The imagery here is powerful. Christ comes as a warrior, wielding a sharp sword, which symbolizes the power of His word. He is portrayed as the one who judges and makes war with perfect justice, bringing a definitive end to the rebellion that has plagued creation. The beast, the false prophet, and all those who followed them are captured and thrown into the lake of fire, symbolizing their eternal defeat. The victory of Christ is not just a battle scene, but a declaration that good ultimately triumphs over evil. It assures us that despite all the turmoil and suffering, Christ's victory is certain and his kingdom will prevail. This moment invites believers to hold on to their faith, knowing that all the forces of evil will be overcome, and a new era of peace and righteousness will begin under the reign of Christ. The book of Revelation is not just a collection of visions about the end times. It is a profound message about hope, justice, and redemption. Throughout the apocalyptic imagery, from the four horsemen, the Great Tribulation, and the fall of Babylon, to the final judgment and the new heaven and new earth, we see a clear narrative that good will ultimately triumph, and God's kingdom will be established forever. The key lessons of Revelation encourage us to remain vigilant and faithful, regardless of the trials we face. The prophecies serve as both a warning against the consequences of rebellion and a promise of ultimate restoration for those who endure. Babylon falls, but the faithful are lifted up. Judgment comes, but so does redemption. In the end, Christ is victorious, and those who have held fast to their faith will share in the glory of his eternal kingdom. Revelation calls us to choose a side, to align our lives with what truly matters, knowing that our actions echo in eternity. It is a book that reassures us that, despite the darkness we may see in the world, God's light will prevail. The new creation, a world free of pain, sorrow, and death, awaits those who trust in his promise. Let this vision be a source of strength, inspiring us to live with hope, courage, and a steadfast commitment to what is right. If you believe in this promise of hope and redemption, like this video and subscribe to help share this message with others. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let us know how the messages of Revelation speak to you today. Together, let's spread the light of this powerful story